You may not think that you've got a sweet tooth, but you'd be very surprised by how much sugar goes into foods that we don't always think of as sweet. And it's this hidden sugar that's causing some experts to say that we're dangerously addicted to the sweet stuff.
If you don't put sugar in your tea or coffee, or sprinkle it on your cereal, it's very easy to assume that you don't have very much of it. But the chances are you're wrong, because you could be eating more than you think without even realising.
Oh, very nice library. Gorgeous.
Dr. Aseem Malhotra is a cardiologist and the scientific director of the campaign group Action on Sugar, who firmly believe that we eat too much sugar.
I look back, for example, on my own childhood, and my mum was a wonderful baker. So she made these great cakes and lots of biscuits and little buns and all sorts of things. I was 7 stone 2 at the time, and I thought I was very healthy. So we've always had sugar in our diet. So what is the change?
Absolutely. So you make a good point there. In my view, there's nothing wrong with the occasional treat. But the problem is the occasional treat has now insinuated itself within the daily diets of most people. And a third of sugar consumption comes from sugary drinks. About a sixth comes from items that people normally associated as being potentially junk food or treats, such as ice creams, biscuits and cakes. But up to half of sugar is consumed in products or foods that people don't normally associate as being harmful,
for example,
such as breads, salad dressings, ketchup.
Now, the sugar industry disputes those figures, saying that the amount we actually consume is much lower. Although there continues to be fierce debate, Aseem and others like him believe that hidden sugars, those we don't even think we're eating, are a root cause of Britain's obesity crisis, and the health problems, of course, that can walk hand in hand with being overweight. Like an estimated 2.7 million people in the UK, Nigel Greensit has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, a condition for which being overweight or obese is a key risk.
Well, to be quite honest, I don't think it came as a surprise to me. It was one of those things that had sort of been going on for a bit. The doctor's been telling me previously that my glucose levels were creeping up. So eventually it got to the stage where they said, right, you've gone over now.
When Nigel was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, he was forced to change his approach to all foods, not just the ones that were obviously sweet.
You'd be surprised, actually. Baked beans, although people say they're good for diabetics, they actually do have considerable amounts of sugar in them. In the early days, if I was eating pasta, I would be buying some of the ready-made sauces. But you look at the labels, you see they've got sugar in them. So these days, I don't do that. So I can control the amount of sugar that's going into what I'm eating that way.
Nigel's diabetes has also forced him to look closely at the food he buys, meaning a simple supermarket shop can take hours, as he has to check even unexpected items to see how much sugar might be inside.
I'll spend quite a bit of time looking at labels to see how much sugar's in things, how much fat's in things. There was a salad dressing that I'd never seen before. I was looking at the label and it's between 25 and 27% sugar, and that's in a salad dressing. And that seems ridiculous to me. Why would you want that? And are people becoming programmed to eating these things with the sugars in them?
Some health campaigners believe that the guideline daily amount, or the GDA, for how much sugar we should eat is far too high. They believe we should be advised to eat less sugar, and Dr. Malhotra agrees.
So what is the advice then as to the amount of sugar that, on average, we should have every day?
What the American Heart Association did in 2009 is they reviewed the amount of added sugar that they were concerned about was being consumed in the American diet. And they recommended a limit for the average adult male of 9 teaspoons a day.
9.
And the average adult female, 6 teaspoons a day.
There's no official definition of how much sugar a teaspoon represents, but it's widely used as shorthand. Generally, around 4 grams is implied, although some think it's more like 5 grams.
Well, we were talking about fizzy drinks. You see, here I have a can of fizzy drink, which would be enjoyed by adult and children alike.
The labelling on this can suggests that this represents 39% of your guideline daily amount, suggesting that it's okay to have up to 2.5 cans of these a day.
And yet, if you take that analysis and use the American reading of only 3 teaspoons for a child between 4 and 8, there you have 3 times the amount in just 1 can.
Absolutely. And, you know, of course, I believe in personal responsibility, but personal responsibility means also giving the public and the consumer the correct information.
Of course, as things stand, all Cook are doing is using the official recommended GDA amounts. Now, as yet, neither government on either side of the Atlantic has officially reduced the recommended sugar intake. But surely the health campaigners realise that for many people, sugar is an integral part of their diet.
But people will say, I've got to live, you know, I've got to shop, I've got to feed my family every day. So what would you say to cut out and what would you say is all right?
I mean, I think there's a very simple concept, actually, really, which I try to promote is, and I tell my patients, is try and eat real food, you know. Try and eat food that you can cook, that doesn't necessarily come out of a packet that, you know, is full of sugar, to avoid sugary drinks. You can still enjoy your food, but, you know, I would say eat food that's real food, not processed food.
So eat fresh.
Absolutely.
Well, recently I've been on a low sugar diet for medical reasons, just to keep my blood sugar levels down. And one of the things my doctor told me was to cut down on my sugar intake. And this is my way to achieve that.
Well, I'm going to show you today, actually it's relatively easy. Now this is my method. Now for breakfast, of course, no toast, no bread, so I could have porridge once a week. Or this is a particularly measured out granola, which actually tastes divine. Or you can have berries are good, actually, any kind of berries apparently. So if you want to add some berries to your porridge or to your granola, that's fine. And of course the yoghurt. Now we move down to lunch. Now, particularly when we're out and about, sometimes it's hard when you're on the move and working to get the right things for lunch. But basically, I could have soup, or I could have a good salad, and to that you could add chicken or anything you want. I just have some cheese and ham here today. But it's good protein, good salad, and of course lots of veggies in the soup. Coming to dinner, well, dinner really you can have anything because this is all protein, chicken, protein and fish. I find that I do have to add an extra chunky vegetable like cauliflower or broccoli, but of course you can have any amount of vegetables and the colour is absolutely gorgeous and it feels healthy. And actually I don't find dinner a problem at all.